All right. Hello again, everyone. This is again Kristine Brown, Director of Member Engagement at the Reno+Sparks Chamber, here to welcome you. It's about 2 minutes until the top of the hour when we will officially start our call. And I see we have the Dean, the man of the hour here on the call already. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Of course, yes, I am as well. And again, congratulations yesterday on a spectacular International Women's Entrepreneurship Symposium. I tuned in for most of the day, and it was a phenomenal experience. So such an elite crowd of speakers and minds. It was great to be part of it. So thank you for hosting that.
Oh, we were very proud of that program. You know, it's an amazing set of speakers from all around the world, 40 countries represented. With women entrepreneurs and all kinds of people talking about, you know, what the road looks like to entrepreneurship and startup and creating your own business. So it was good. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, excellent. And it was interesting to see some meditations thrown in there as well. That was kind of unexpected and fun.
Yeah, I had to get used to that a little bit. I'm trying to make it in my comfort zone, but it was a little bit hard. But,
Certainly,
you know,
that is completely understandable. Well, you have no reason to expect any curveballs of that nature thrown at you today. And today, Dean, you mostly have the floor. So, but before we get to you, we'll go ahead and just roll through a couple of announcements for everyone really quickly. And then we will proceed. So again, I want to welcome everyone to this session of Chamber EDU. This is part of our Business 101 series, and the ethos of the Business 101 series is really to get back to basics. We've spent our year, and it really is a year now, reimagining work, reimagining business, even reimagining the futures of our organizations. And so we thought this was a really key time, a really relevant time to explore some of the concepts that, you know, will continue to guide us into the future. We've learned how to lean into change, and there are also some principles to leadership, to strategic planning, to management, to good business citizenship that will always be true and that are evergreen. And so we want to approach, this future, this bright future we have, armed with some tools that will help to get us there. And certainly one of our big partners in this effort as part of this Chamber EDU series has been the UNR College of Business and of course, Dean Greg Mosier, who is here with us today to present. And so we thank the UNR College of Business, not just for their partnership with the Chamber, but for their investment in the entire ecosystem of the workforce here in our community. Really quickly, before I turn things over to Greg Mosier, I just want to point out that we've got a couple of other webinars coming up that you can take advantage of, and I encourage you to. Unfortunately, my slide is not advancing at the moment, so you'll just have to trust me when I say that we've got a full slate coming up ahead, including 2 more sessions in this strategic planning, webinar series, as well as a couple others on integrated marketing, how to use integrated marketing practices to advance your cause, to advance your business or your organization, as well as mental health in the workplace, how to provide resources for your teammates and employees, and also many others. Personal leadership is one that we're going to be exploring on Thursday, and I encourage all of you to sign up for that as well. So without further ado, I will turn things over to Dean Greg Mosier, who is the Dean, of course, of the UNR College of Business, who will be presenting for us today. And just a quick reminder, keep yourselves muted for the presentation. But once the presentation is over, we will be taking your questions, and you are welcome to unmute yourself, to share your video so that we can actually have a dialogue. Or if you're more comfortable, you can go ahead and enter any questions you have into chat. So whatever your flavor, go ahead and please roll with it. So without further ado, Dean, I'll turn it over to you.
That's great. Thank you very much. Well, thanks to everybody for being here. I've been really looking forward to this half hour I have to spend with you all and talk a little bit about strategic planning. I will tell you that I've left a lot of room at the tail end of this presentation to have discussion and talk about things that are of interest to you around this particular topic. I know the title that we worked with the Chamber on for this particular session is Finding, Living, and Tracking Your Mission. So that's kind of what we're focused on. There are some other presentations though that are going to go along with this, because as most of us know, strategic planning, is kind of an ongoing process, and there are different aspects to it that you need to pay some attention to. I'm going to do a screen share real quick. If I can just press the right buttons, I will do a screen share, because I do have some PowerPoint slides. Being really, at the end of the day, a university professor, we love using PowerPoint slides. So I hope that comes up. Can you see that?
There we go. Yes,
all
perfect.
Right, there we go. Just want to make sure you see all that. So again, I'll just give you the title, kind of what it is that we're going to be talking about a little bit. And I have a video embedded in here to get us started that I wanted to share with you all. And it's a thing that really resonates with me personally. And I apologize, because a lot of times we're on video on Zoom, it doesn't come through and it's a little disjointed. But when I show you, it's only a 30-second clip. And I'd like to show it to you to give you a sense of how I think about strategic planning. So we will see where this goes.
Now which way do we go?
Pardon me. That way is a very nice way.
Who said that? Don't be silly, Toto. Scarecrows don't talk.
It's pleasant down that way, too.
That's funny. Wasn't he pointing the other way?
Of course, people do go both ways.
So pretty short, I think most of us have seen that video in the past, Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy and Toto are figuring out what they're going to do, and the Scarecrow is pointing on whichever direction that it might be. And for me, it's a little bit of a weird crutch maybe, but whenever I think about strategic planning, I think about that little clip. It's like, what direction are we going? What are we here for? What are we doing? And some people really do never figure that out. Some people do go both ways on these things. I think even that's a permissible thing on strategic planning, as long as you understand that's what you're doing. It's really trying to get down to where are we going to focus our efforts? Why are we here? How are we going to do the most amount of good for what we want to really try to accomplish? So again, I always refer back to the Wizard of Oz in order to do that. Now, thing about strategic plans, I'll tell you a little bit of my background in this. Part of my background is I've just done a lot of strategic plans. Our accreditation cycles in colleges of business in the world involve an accreditation cycle that you must have a strategic plan, and you must manage to that strategic plan. And you got to show how you devote your financial resources to what you say is important in your strategic plan. And so as a consequence, I think I've led the College of Business here at University of Nevada through 3 cycles of that accreditation over time. And every time we've had to think about who we are, what we are, and which direction we're going, and what's important to us. But I would point out this first thing that I think is incredibly important about strategic plans: they're dynamic. You don't have to, make this decision, this is what it's going to be, and we're going to stick with that until the end of time. I might use an example. We had a winner of our Sontag entrepreneurship competition who had an incredible technology that he had put together using technology to help control irrigation gates on farmland. And they won the Sontag competition because they were going to be able to do this by radio transmitter, use technology to control irrigation gates. And after they graduated, they took the money and they were looking at getting the business started, and they had to pivot completely away from that because they figured out that they really didn't have a place in the marketplace for what they were proposing to do. So they took a business idea that they thought was going to be their strategy, their focus, what they were going to do, and ended up doing something almost completely different in terms of some geospatial stuff and things like that. And so just always remember, just because you put it down in paper and said, this is what we're going to be, doesn't mean what it's always going to have to be. You can change that over time. Typically, strategic plans include these mission, vision, goals, and objectives. I will tell you, and this is probably one of the reasons I'm here. I was hired here when a gentleman named Milt Glick was the president of the university. And he was the president who hired me to come here. And one of the things in a conversation with him before I took the job, that we were talking about strategic planning, and he said he believed in strategic planning light. He wanted to do strategic planning light because he'd come from Arizona State, and he was used to, in universities, we sometimes will publish volumes of our strategic plans in universities. I mean, they have all these mission, vision, goals, and objectives, and there's all these measurement metrics that we do, and we collect all this data, and we do all these different things. And a lot of times you get so buried in the minutia of goals and objectives and the metrics by which you're measuring things that you begin to stray away from the mission and vision. And so Milt was very much a believer of strategic planning light. I've always tried to boil that down to its essence. And what I use in the College of Business is it's a little bit like Westward Movement during the frontier days. What I say is we're going to all go west. We don't say, and we're going to end up at a street corner in downtown San Francisco where we're going to have this conversation. As long as everybody in the organization is moving west, then I'm pretty happy, right? And some may end up as they move west down in Santa Cruz. Some may end up in Portland because it's still west. Some are northwest, some are southwest, some of them are going a little bit different direction, but at least I got the entire enterprise moving in a general direction about what we want to accomplish. And for me, that's what strategic planning light is. It's the idea that let's try to make sure all the stakeholders get on board and get a general idea about where we want to be, rather than a specific idea of a specific outcome that we're trying to. We can drill down on that further as everybody starts moving the same direction. The mission and vision, there's a lot of debate over mission and visions that goes on. Sometimes they look to be the same. Sometimes they integrate well. Sometimes they don't. Just, you know, in the context of the way I look at mission and vision, a mission is more of who we are. It's kind of present focused. This is how we exist. And I'm going to give you some examples. I'll give you the College of Business mission statement at the end of this. And then I also have one from a coffee shop, a mission statement that will help you kind of think about it. It's who we are, you know, in terms of what services we deliver, what kind of product we have, what we're trying to accomplish presently. A vision is a lot more future focused about, you know, what it's going to be like when we finally get to Portland, that kind of thing, or to the West Coast or wherever it is we're headed. So it's a much more future focused things. The reason I like to focus on mission and vision is I think you can do a strategic plan that just includes those two things. Goals and objectives are important. I think particularly goals are important, but I've been in innumerable discussions and meetings with professors with PhDs in strategic management who argue over what a goal is versus what an objective is. And when you get buried into that kind of a discussion, you begin again to lose the overarching concept about what you're trying to accomplish, about what's a goal, what's an objective. The first strategic and planning exercise we did here in the College of Business when I first arrived here, we really just talked about 5 key initiatives. We didn't even use the terms goals and objectives. We talked about initiatives. We're going to build our reputation based upon student success. It was one of them. We talked about sustainability. And so we just laid those things out. Again, more as a let's go west. Let's get everybody moving in the same direction on these particular things. So I'm not saying throw goals and objectives out, because again, as you're measuring your progress, those become pretty important, but don't get bogged down in those to the exclusion of your mission and vision. Now the mission, kind of what you want to think about as you develop a mission statement. It should represent the organization's purpose in a way that stakeholders can understand it. Right? That's again my go west analogy that I try to go with. The idea there is you want your customers to understand it. what you stand for. You want your employees to understand it. You want your banker to understand it, right? I mean, it all kind of wraps up into this thing about who you are when you give your mission statement. And if you're an owner of a company or you're a leader of an organization, you gotta really embrace what that mission is. Because, you know, as the leader of an organization, the owner of a company, the leader of an organization, you know, you're supposed to embody what that mission says. That's an incredibly important thing that you know, you're able to recite it, you're able to throw it out to people, you're able to say, and I'm representative of where we're going. I think it really matters for employees that you embody what your mission is. You gotta, you know, you gotta stick to what the plan is and say, this is what we're trying to accomplish, because they want to follow you then, because they know what it is that you're trying to accomplish. I give you a few bullet items here of things to consider as you develop this mission statement. You got to think of what type of organization it is. What do you do in that organization? Are you selling coffee, or are you educating students? You know, all of them need a mission statement. You know, in a business enterprise in particular, what is the market? But we think about that in the College of Business a lot. One of the things we've been trying to do over time is expand our market, because we've tried to make ourselves a more global College of Business, because we want to help attract businesses here to the state. We want to, you know, engage with these companies in other places and bring them here for their employment price they bring, and then bring students from those places as well. So you got to think about what your market is. You need to think about who makes a good team member. Do they buy into the mission? Are they going to go along with you on this? And then, you know, really, what is your ultimate goal? That gets a little blurry, particularly over the last 20 years. You know, we've all heard that saying about the only role of American business is to increase shareholder value. You know, that's what businesses are supposed to be doing. But a lot of businesses, you know, have been trying to go beyond that, and they're redefining it by what is shareholder value, right? And so you get into sustainability initiatives and things like that, but a lot of companies and organizations want to establish as part of their ultimate goal. So it's not just about making money necessarily. I got to throw this in here. You know, SWOT analysis have kind of, in the literature around strategic planning, they're not in favor right now. It's not the thing. Back when I first started in this business, everybody wanted to do a SWOT analysis. And then the literature around strategic planning has kind of begun to back away from SWOT analysis. So I'm probably showing my age a little bit by saying, you know, I still think they show incredible value in terms of just starting the conversation over what you are. Because if you enter into a marketplace or a new product category or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, and you don't at least think on the top of your head about what your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are, you're going to be blindsided by these things. And I'd rather have them all kind of penciled out from an ideation process where people sit around and talk about it. What is the opportunity for another coffee shop in Reno? Right? I mean, there probably are some, right? If that's what you want to create. You know, I think about it from the opportunities that competitors might think about. You know, you got a lot of for-profit online universities that offer business programming. What are the opportunities they're seeing in Reno, and how is that a threat to me, right? Running a College of Business here, and how can we anticipate that relative to competitors? So I think just going through a SWOT analysis, it's a way to bring everybody together as you begin a strategic planning exercise, and everybody will have ideas on it. I think you need to determine some goals about what you want to have. Goals do not have to be quantitative. You know, qualitative goals are good in a lot of cases, you know, and those are just things where you're saying, you know, we're going to be the best, or we're going to be the most sustainable, or, you know, we're going to have the highest ethos around a certain type of issue. And so qualitative goals are good too. You just don't want to overburden yourself with, you know, 100 of them. you want to kind of focus a little bit upon making sure you pick your top few that you say, this is where we're going to devote our effort. And they can be broad or specific. Again, it's just helping you define what direction you're going. Objectives, those really get down into the more minutia when you're talking about objectives. And I'd say some organizations it's really good for. Those are just the actions or steps that move the organization closer to the goals. In a university, you know, we might say that relative to how many journal articles the faculty published last year. Might be an objective we set out. You know, we'd like to increase that by 15% every year over the next planning horizon. We might do it around student enrollment numbers. We might do it around how many presentations like this do our faculty do to show our outreach mission, that we're trying to provide this information around all the various organizations that we feel we serve. And so, you know, it becomes kind of a numerical thing, but you don't want to get into a position where that's driving everything you're doing, because sometimes it takes over what the organization's about, and it becomes a little burdensome. So just always, you know, weigh those with a little consideration. Now, I do want to give you this. I looked this up, actually. This is, and you can find a ton of this information, by the way, on the web. That's a great thing about Google. When I started, or any search engine, back when I started in this business, it was going to the library and pulling a lot of books from the shelves. And, you know, and you're flipping through all those things and you're writing down different things on it. But with the internet, you know, this stuff is pretty readily available from all kinds of organizations, right? So your trade organizations will have information on developing a strategic plan in your space, right? Whatever that space may be. I see Kindle's here from the Education Alliance, right? So you know, I mean, you know, educational enterprises have all kinds of stuff on strategic planning. And so learn from your industry and trade groups and organizations that you're a member of about, you know, what other people in your space are doing around strategic planning. I just happened to pull this one about restaurant mission statements because I thought it was interesting. I was trying to think about, you know, what's not like a business school was what started me down this path. So I wanted to give you two mission statements, one that I pulled from the touchbistro.com website, and the other one that we have been using for the last strategic planning horizon in the College of Business. And you can see they're pretty different about what it is that what we say about it. And again, I would point out in the mission statement, we're trying to say, this is who we currently are in the College of Business at the University of Nevada. This is who we currently are. The College of Business inspires, engages, and educates innovative change makers through excellence in research, teaching, and outreach, which is a core mission of all universities. We drive economic vitality and improve the quality of life in our communities. We feel like that's who we are, and we judge our activities against that when we do things. We ask ourselves, is this really fit with what we say we do? Is it an activity that's driving economic vitality? Jim McClenahan's the director of our corporate outreach and career services function. And he helps place students in local organizations. Employment, that's economic vitality for us. So that's kind of how we do it for our College of Business. But if you have a coffee shop, again, from touchbistro.com, this particular coffee shop had a mission statement to serve customers the best cup of coffee they've ever had while supporting fair trade practices. Think how many types of daily activities can be driven by that mission. I mean, you know, that's not a hard mission to get behind if you work in a coffee shop. And it's going to drive every activity from, you know, where you buy your supplies to what the place looks like, you know, how clean it is. All those things can be driven by that mission. If you go out into a vision, again, this is what you aspire to be. It's more future oriented. And so you see the College of Business, we aspire to be a premium business school that produces research and graduates that, again, enable economic vitality and inspire positive change in Nevada and the world. And so we go back to Kristine's observation about our iWest yesterday. the International Women's Entrepreneurship Symposium, 750 people from around the world, speakers from every continent, okay, and 40 countries represented. The reason we did that is we're driving towards that vision, right? That's who we want to be. We don't think we're there yet, but we have every plan on trying to achieve that vision as we go along. If you run the coffee shop, they imagine a world where there's no such thing as a bad cup of coffee. I'm all in favor of their vision. I think, 100% in. And where all coffee farmers are prosperous. That's a pretty good vision, right? That's sustainability that we like to look at. So anyway, that's kind of the short part of my presentation, and I don't want to take up too much time. We have a few minutes left for discussion, questions, whatever y'all want to do. So I will take that down.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Greg, for your presentation and also for giving us such a canvas on which we can paint this discussion. I know I, for one, have a ton of questions as per usual, and I'm sure that there are other folks on the call who have questions as well. So I want to invite everyone, if you would like to share your video and unmute, you're more than welcome to do so. You're also more than welcome to enter any questions you have into the chat so that you can get those questions addressed. I'll go ahead and kick things off while folks are gathering their thoughts. Something that really struck me about the presentation and something that I'm really asking a lot of questions about personally is not just what we're doing when we are forming our strategic plan, but who's doing it, who is at the table. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really big question right now and a really important one for a lot of organizations across multiple matrices, not just, addressing questions of representation of, gender, race, whatever kind of matrice you're using, but also within your organization, people in leadership, people who perhaps are more, at the bottom levels of your organizational tree, who should be at the table and what's the best way to elicit the most robust feedback for your strategic plan, taking into consideration lots of different viewpoints and voices.
Well, and I think you have to cast a really broad net. I think the type of organization, it matters. If you're talking about the coffee shop, that's probably more the owner and their spouse and their family talking about, what this thing is. You do want to include employees to the extent you have any. You may not have any employees when you first start up. So as you're thinking about what that coffee shops is, it doesn't have to be as big a net. When you're an organization like ours, the College of Business, you try to solicit input from everybody. It's a completely open process. It's, again, one of the reasons I like a SWOT analysis, because it doesn't mean everybody has to be in every meeting that you have. At some level, you're going to have to turn it over to a small subset of people to write some stuff. But you do want to give an opportunity for people to react to what you put in writing. And so you share that with them. You start off, one of the things we do in the College of Business, and again, I gave a shout out to Jim, who I think's in here, but we work, when we do a strategic plan, we'll have meetings with alumni, with our corporate partners program, and we will do the little SWOT analysis with them. We'll sit down and say, what do you think our strengths are? What do you think our weaknesses are? Where are these opportunities and threats? And so there's input that then comes back into more of an executive strategy committee, where we can say, okay, we've talked to our alumni and here's what they think our opportunities are. Are we, how do we work that into this thing? It's one of the reasons I like a SWOT analysis. And then one of the things we share with our advisory board, but it doesn't mean everybody has to be in the room for every single meeting. At some level, somebody has to sit down and write the thing out. And so soliciting that input is really important, though. And I think that's the way for most organizations. If you have a large coffee shop up and running and you have 20 employees, you better include them in the conversation. I mean, even if it's a small business, with 10 employees, right? You need to really ask some of these questions to them in order to keep the thing moving along. So I'd never discount any kind of input you can get, because you never know where the best advice is going to come from.
Absolutely agree. And I loved your point about field testing, that you haven't arrived at your mission, at your vision, at your strategic plan until it's field tested. And I think what's great is that, we have so many ways to get that kind of feedback, that meaningful feedback now. Even if we can't gather around a table, we can, gather in these Brady Bunch squares we have. We can gather, gather information, gather voices, gather input through online surveys. I know that's a tool that I use in my role at the Chamber often, in order to gauge sentiment, in order to gauge people's willingness and readiness, to engage in certain initiatives, or what even they find important. So there's so many ways to gather people around the proverbial table, and it's a key part of the strategic planning process.
Yeah, you can't be afraid of the input.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, you really need to talk to everybody who you think has some good ideas for you. A lot of people would try to avoid the people they think are going to say that's really a lousy cup of coffee. But maybe what you need to do is go to those people.
Right.
Say, what is it you don't like about this? What is or what do you think we're not doing right? What could we do differently? Because you got to give a voice to everybody who's going to impact what your organization is.
Right. That old adage, I think of it all the time, turning your critics into coaches. I think that's probably one of the most important phrases I've ever, encountered in my career, and really carried with me throughout my entire career. And it's certainly true when it comes to strategic planning. And I don't want to hog the floor, so please, others, please jump in and fire away with your questions.
Let me follow up a little bit on that, though. I think you need to get the input. It doesn't mean you have to do everything everybody says.
Of course.
Because you will get into those kinds of things sometimes. People will feel very strongly like, here you go, I've told you, and then you didn't do what I said. And it's like, at some level, that's how organizations have infrastructure around them for a reason. And so input's important, but it doesn't mean everybody gets to derail you and take you off into a different direction that is not agreed upon.
Sure, absolutely.
I had a question. Can you take this model and everything from this PowerPoint and use this towards like a venture capital fund or a private equity fund? Or is there some things that you didn't mention that you would suggest to kind of strategic plan, like a private equity or a venture capital fund?
So you're talking about starting one up, or you're talking about making a presentation to one to get financing?
No, just starting one up. I just wanted to see if can you take when it comes to the strategic planning
yeah, without a doubt. I think particularly if you're talking about, taking large sums of money and putting it in those kinds of investment organizations, you're going to have to drill further down on those goals and objectives than what I'm speaking about. But, there's a lot of those venture capital funds that have made these decisions around mission and vision about the types of companies that they're going to invest in. One of our speakers actually yesterday at the International Women's Entrepreneurship Symposium, the keynote at the end, she has been very interested in creating venture funds for Latina and Latino companies in Southern California. That's their focus and what they're going to do. And so, coming up with that mission and vision about, what you're going to take a look at in terms of where you're going to invest your time and money, I think without a doubt, it's critical that you do that, because otherwise there's so many investment opportunities out there. I mean, you could just say, I'm going to buy Bitcoin, right? Could be the only thing I'm going to do. And so you really do need to go through a strategic planning exercise to figure out, what is our purpose here? Are we going to help change the world? Because we're going to be very focused on the types of technology, the types of companies, what we want to accomplish out of investing in these things. And so I think it's critical that you do a strategic plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Dean. Great to see
Hi.
you. Hello, everyone. I really appreciate just the simplicity, the generality. Go west. Keep it simple. You know, I'm kind of old school. Also, I love the SWOT idea. That's helpful. And I'm because of the simplicity of it. I also go back and forth on. I agree. You got to have a lot of input from your stakeholders, all the various ones. But then there's a point at which you don't want all the cooks, you know, in the room. You know, do you bring them everything? Do you just solicit that SWOT, kind of all of those things? Or, you know, I think what Kristine's question was great about who do you bring to the table, and just still keeping it simple. But what do you think about, you know, when you have a board that you want to, and stakeholders, huge stakeholders, what do you think about, what do you bring to them? Do you bring them small pieces, big pieces?
Well, what I have a tendency to do is solicit that input up front that more sets the stage, and that's kind of SWOT analysis kind of a thing. But, you know, I mean, I have a job for a reason, right? And part of the reason is because I was selected to be the dean of this academic unit. And there's a responsibility that comes with that. And part of that responsibility is for me to pull up more of an executive group that's still representative. I mean, we bring a student representative on these things. We bring, you know, faculty members. We bring, you know, president of the Alumni Association, those kinds of things. But we usually drill that down to like a group of no more than 20 who are on a committee. And then what it boils down to is once we write this thing, it becomes incumbent upon that group to sell it. I mean, you know, because you can't keep going back to these groups saying, well, did we capture, you know, exactly what you said? No, we'll change it if we didn't. At some level, you got to say, okay, we're in these roles in order to try to operationalize. We're going to revisit it again, you know, at some point in the future. But at some level, we got to know when we're breaking camp in the Truckee Meadows, you know, are we going to head up over Donner Pass? Or are we going to try to wait out the winter here? Yeah, I know that's a terrible analogy, but right. But I mean, for me, that's what strategic planning represents, right? You got to make these very hard decisions about what we're going to do right now. And if you just keep having the conversations without ever getting to, we need to break camp and get going, then you know, you never get anywhere.
Right on. Okay, good. Thank you so much.
All right. What other questions do we have out there? I know I've got another one. I've got several, but I'll just pick one.
Okay.
How do we know that we have arrived at the mission that is right for our organization at that moment?
Well, I don't think you ever know for certain. I mean, I think that's part of human existence, right? I mean, you're always going to be asking yourself the question, you know, is this the right thing? That's why I think you have to be very happy with it being dynamic. By the way, I think this applies to people's lives too. I always tell the story in my classes that when I was a kid, every New Year's Day, my dad, even when I was a little kid, like 10 years old, my dad would ask me and all my siblings where we saw ourselves in 5 years and 10 years. I mean, that's strategic planning, right? And I mean, you know, you don't answer those questions when you're 10. And you know, it changes, right? And you never really know, but it does force you, you know, the nice thing about strategic planning is it forces you to ask those bigger questions about why you're here and what you want to do with your life and what you expect for the outcomes. But I don't think anybody's ever 100% confident that they got it figured out. Or at least I'm a little bit suspicious of people who think they've got it 100% figured out. So, you know, you're making your best shot at it. You know, you're saying this is now, you know, I'm willing to listen to input through the whole next strategic planning horizon, and we'll flip it if we have to. But that's the vagaries of human existence to me.
Right. I completely agree. I resonate with that example, except that I am the one who's always asking the annoying questions.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but that's absolutely true. I mean, I think that there has to be that certain element of, there has to be that true north, which is your mission
Yeah.
statement. And then there also has to be dynamicism and normalizing change,
Right.
normalizing changing your mind or changing your direction.
Right.
And to your point, I love the analogy of just heading west, having that being your not true north, I guess, true west,
Yeah.
heading west and allowing yourself to land in Portland, allowing yourself to land in Seattle, allowing yourself to land in San Francisco or in Reno. It's all west, but you need to course correct as it seems right. And I loved what you said also toward the end of your presentation in regard to the coffee shop's mission statement and how many activities have been driven by that mission. And I think that's almost a good metric too, to say for us right now in our organization, does this mission statement or this vision statement reflect the activities that we're actually doing? And then, of course, on the flip side, do the activities that we're doing actually reflect the mission that we believe we have? So it's kind of a two-way litmus test in a sense for determining whether or not it seems like you're on the right track with your mission at the moment.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I like that Wizard of Oz clip, because it's like, if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter which road you go. Right? You don't sit there and clearly say, this is what we're trying to do, then, just wander somewhere. And I think most human beings find that to not be a very compelling existence, to just wander somewhere. I think most of us are driven by different things that, we would like to accomplish ourselves and we'd like to do, working with other people and where it can take other people as well as ourselves. And we want to try things. And so I just think coming up with, even in our personal lives, some sort of a mission statement, and particularly in organizations, about why we're doing stuff is very important.
Absolutely. All right, I will open it back up to one more question. If anyone has anything burning out there. All right, well, I will take that as a sign that we have reached the end of the call. So once again, I just popped in a link to the chat. It's a link to the Chamber's website that has all of our upcoming Chamber EDU webinars. You can register directly from that page, whichever ones you choose. We hope to see you again. We appreciate you so much for being here and for engaging, for asking your questions and for providing feedback. And of course, I'm here as a resource. If, for instance, if you wanted to get in touch with Greg, I'm happy to make those connections for you. Don't be a stranger. And Greg, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and your expertise.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed visiting with everybody.
All right, thanks. Let's do it again soon, everyone.
Thanks.
All right, bye.
Bye.